Well, welcome back again this week. Well, I told you last week about the Chinese buying out the largest pork processing plant in the United States, or actually not plant, but the whole firm. This week it gets worse. Now we find out, according to NPR, that maybe your chicken McNuggets or whatever other kind of chicken that you might be eating will be coming through the processing plants in China. And just let me read you one little blurb here. Just before the start of the long holiday weekend last Friday, meaning Labor Day, the U.S. Department of Agriculture quietly announced that it was ending a ban on processed chicken imports from China. The kicker? These products can now be sold in the United States without a country of origin label. And so here is the complete report with cover letter from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, allowing the Chinese now to take chickens from our country, take them to China, process them, and then return them without being labeled. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't trust communists. That's just the way it is. There's no reason why I would. The only reason I would trust a communist is to do exactly what communists have always done, and that is to assume control, slaughter people as well as chickens and pigs. And so the thing is, though, that what we see happening is the steady accumulation of the food chain of the United States. They started out with dog and cat food. You may remember that a lot of dogs and cats got ill because of the imports from China. Just to give you an idea, you can see this chart. This is year by year the increase in importation of dog and cat food into the United States. And incidentally, just to read you from this one article, chicken from China has been blamed by many pet owners for the illnesses and deaths of their dogs. Excuse me, let me start over again. Chicken from China has been blamed by many pet owners for the illnesses and deaths their dogs have experienced after eating treats made with Chinese chicken. Chinese chicken. And now the U.S. Department of Agriculture has said now we can even import it for human consumption. You know how they take care of problems in China, for instance, with diseased pigs that die suddenly. They just throw them in the river. Remember that one? Where they polluted the waters of a river with thousands of dead pigs floating down the river. Everybody downstream couldn't use the water, et cetera, et cetera. That's how they handled things in China. But at any rate, getting back to the point, how long will it be between the time that they start taking chickens from the United States over to China to be processed and then re-imported into the United States as processed whatever chicken product, unlabeled? And by the way, one thing in this process is that they do not need to be inspected on the Chinese side. Get that? They'll inspect the chickens in the United States, but they will not inspect the processed chicken in China by the United States Department of Agriculture. Now, the thing about that is, getting back again, how long will it take between the time that we export chickens to China and there's more imported back in than were exported out of the United States? In other words, if they're not inspecting these things, how long will it be between the time they start this program and they start to infiltrate Chinese-grown chickens into the process? I don't think it'll take very long. How long will it be before people start leaving McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or Burger King or wherever else and start retching? I don't know. But I do know that strategically, from the standpoint of what they're trying to do, this is very, very dangerous. Opening up China to our industry, moving there, has created a lot of problems with our economy. Now they've got pretty much control over the industrial base of the United States. They're using that money to come back in and buy up what they didn't get to move to China. And Boeing and others are using all sorts of Chinese firms in areas they shouldn't be using them, because they are our enemy. They have declared that they are our enemy. Every year, the Chinese government, through the People's Liberation Army, specifically states that the United States is their enemy. And yet we keep doing all these things. Now what we're doing is giving them control over our food chain. Can you imagine? They got the pork, they've got the chicken. How long is it going to be before they have the beef? Well, maybe they won't have to get the beef. They can take whatever it is and dye it red and call it red meat. I mean, they've done that sort of thing in the past. See, what a lot of people don't realize is that the United States Department of Agriculture has actually gone overseas to places like China and Cambodia and others, helping them set up various food products to be imported into the United States, such as shrimp. They go up and show them how to grow them, raise them, freeze them, on and on and on and on. At one point, the shrimp was so bad that the European Union wouldn't even allow it to be offloaded in Europe. And so it came to the United States. These sorts of things are happening right now to our food chain, and they've got to be stopped. They've killed our industry. Now they're going to take control of our food chain. What is next? And we're not talking about people that are freedom lovers. Crackdown muzzles China bloggers. They don't like people who like freedom of speech. They don't like people that criticize the state. They're communists. And so we're turning over now our food chain to communists. Well, not only that, but you've got individuals like Secretary of Defense Hagel, Charles Hagel. Oh, he's a Republican, so not to worry, right? Charles Hagel shaking hands with the foreign minister of China, and the headline on this is, by the way, from the Chinese website. Chinese Foreign Minister Hagel applaud steady improvement of China-U.S. military ties. And they use all the flowering words about how the U.S. military and the Chinese military are starting to cooperate now. They're getting along nicely, thank you very much. What it means is, like we've reported before at this site, is the use of this cooperation by the Russians to get knowledge about our operations in anti-terrorism, in special forces, in NORAD. They can fly over our air bases now to see what we're doing. All sorts of things like that. Now they're starting this process with the Chinese. By the way, Chuck Hagel is a traitor, okay? The man was named by Obama as our Secretary of Defense while he was chairman of the Atlantic Council, whose main goal is to unite the United States into the European Union, to do away with the United States, become a partner in much a bigger globalized regional government. That to me is treason. It abrogates the Constitution, it does away with the independence of the American people, and now he is our Secretary of Defense. There was a book written by a Czechoslovakia, a Czech communist leader. The book became very famous among conservative circles because it told the tactics of the communists. The title was, "And Not a Shot is Fired." Not a shot is being fired. They're taking us over. And our own government is doing it to us. It wouldn't be happening if our own government wasn't doing it to us. At any rate, we'll leave it at that. The situation is quite serious. It's not impossible to overcome, but a number of people have to get involved that are not involved today in order to help us overcome these things. It's time to get involved. Till next week. We'll see you then.